Okay, we're rolling.
We're rolling?
Yep.
All right.
All right, hello and welcome to the Source Points podcast, I'm Dr. Chris.
And I'm Allan Chatenay.
Where we talk about all things geoscience-y, oil, industry-y, and other things. And we have a guest today.
Whatever comes up. We're delighted to have a guest with us today. Marco Perez of Velvet Energy is with us today. Welcome, Marco.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for making it. On this cold day, like what are we sitting at, minus 25 or minus 30 out there? Canadians got to talk about the weather, right? So
my watch says minus 25.
Yeah, but not inside.
Not inside,
nice
no.
and
Nice and warm inside.
Yeah.
Yeah, I navigated myself through the plus 15 maze, so a little bit late, but
made
worth
it nice
it.
And warm. Worth it. Stay warm, stay safe. Also, I think safer being in the plus 15s typically, right?
Yeah.
I think no crossing the streets, no slippery sidewalks, all that kind of good stuff.
Absolutely. All right. So what's on board for today?
Well, what's big in your world, Marco? What are you working on these days, geophysics-wise? And talk a little bit about your background and your career and where you came from and where you're going and all that stuff.
All right. So actually, I went to high school in New Jersey.
Okay.
And my parents were living in Colombia at the time. And they decided to move back to Canada. And so I was looking for some sort of post-secondary education and ended up at McGill University in Montreal in 1994, yeah. So I did my undergrad at McGill in physics. And I had a little bit of minor in geophysics, but it was mostly, say, planetary sort of geophysics, what the Earth's magnetic field looked like, or the gravitational waves of whatever.
Fascinating.
Yeah, it was pretty math intensive. Definitely not, say, practical. At some point, it was very theoretical. At some point, I realized I didn't want to be too much of a scientist or too theoretical.
Pure academics kind of thing, right?
Sort of thing, working in more of a team environment. And so after I graduated, I didn't know what to do. And my dad said, what about geophysics? That sounds like a component of physics. I was like, oh yeah, wave propagation. I like that stuff, lights, whatever. Yeah. And I applied to UBC, U of A, and U of C. Ended up at U of C in the cruise program.
Okay. Did you guys know each other from cruise?
I think we'd pass in the hallway sort of thing.
Oh, okay.
I sort of get. I was at the UFC for like 15 years. So when were you there again?
I guess it would have been 99 to 2001.
Yeah, I was just a researcher at Cruise at that point.
Okay, yeah. I spent a lot of time in the computer lab there, just bashing keyboards, trying to get stuff to work.
Before YouTubes, before Twitters.
Yeah, that's right.
Before the advent of any crazy social medias.
So were you MATLAB? Is that what you were using?
Yeah, I was MATLAB, and I was just I think it was one of your YouTube videos, Chris, where you say no to MATLAB.
Yeah, no, that's a very academic.
Do you agree
language.
with that? Are we gonna? Do you think MATLAB is obsolete as well, or?
I think it's a limited use in some ways. Like if you actually want to do, it's fine for modeling, simple plotting, simple graphics. I think it's for me at least, I've become very comfortable with it. I pull my hair out as I try to learn Python and move on to, like, say, more open source type things where you get everything for free. But once I get over that transition phase, it's fine.
Did you pull? Well, Chris doesn't have any hair anymore, so maybe you pulled it all out.
Well, for me, with respect to MATLAB and academia, I used it extensively in academic life just because it was there, it was free. Mm-hmm. Didn't realize you had to pay for it.
Yeah.
And then when I moved into a semi-corporate life and I wanted to move all my code, I read through the documentation and it said stuff like, MATLAB, you just want to do modeling in it and then write it in C. I was like, what? I spent all this time writing all this great code to rewrite it?
Yeah, no, right now it's super frustrating because I have all this modeling stuff, and as I add, it becomes a Frankenstein of code that I just keep adding and adding to, and it just churns and takes forever.
Yep.
It's not scalable, and it seems like such a waste to throw it all away or
Start again.
I
in
did.
something else. And
There are giant chunks of code that are sitting at Cruise right now that I wrote that probably nobody will ever use.
yeah. I wrote so my thesis at U of C was
Now, did you get a PhD? Are you
Masters,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
and that was anisotropic tomography, like reflection tomography, and I wrote some inversion code in MATLAB. And I guess almost 20 years ago now, it took hours to run the inversion using MATLAB's SVD sort of code.
On relatively sparse data sets, probably.
It's a 50 by 50 grid.
Right.
It was
Yeah.
not.
I'm breaking out in hives right
Yeah, it took forever. So I run it, go home, come back the next day. Hopefully it was done, and didn't get an error message like
now. Yeah.
ran out of memory or whatever. But
Do you think that have the universities? I mean, I don't keep track, but do you think the schools are moving to cloud-based computing now? Do you think they're all? Are they still using MATLAB at Cruise, for example? Are they? Do you know? Are you connected to those guys? Have they moved to Python, GitHub, Jupyter notebooks? Have they kind of modernized?
No, they have not. Now let me rephrase that. I'll roll that back. From the people that I've talked to, they were still teaching MATLAB, and I don't want to exactly let's say MATLAB's sufficient, but they need to modernize. And there's other universities that I spoke with when I've gone to the SEG, or not universities, but even instructors, and I say, are you teaching your students code? Is that part of the curriculum? No. I was like, why at a higher? Well, I know why. At a higher education, they're focused somewhere else.
Academics,
Not going, hey, wait a second, let's put these kids into the real world, which would be my beef with the university setting. But
it's not. University is not a vocational school, right?
No.
It is an academic
I mean,
institution.
that goes to a whole philosophical understanding of what a university is and should be, and has traditionally been, but not necessarily serving what it needs to now.
Right. Is there a changing role for universities? Sorry, we digress.
Yeah.
well, I mean, that's something that's I think about quite often, and your YouTube sort of posts are relevant in a lot of cases. I have a colleague who went back to university after he got laid off from Apache and then started his master's at U of C, and he's about to finish up now.
Who's that, if you don't mind saying?
Andrew Iverson.
Oh, okay.
He works with me.
I recognize the name.
Yeah.
I don't know if I knew him.
So we hired him part-time to do our in-house inversions, and then loved his work, and so he's there full-time now. But he went back and to do a master's, and he asked me what my advice was. And I was like, well, I like the sort of the Stanford rock physics or the geomechanics portion with Mark Zoback, and his students sort of put out theoretically sound thesis, but applied to, say, like the Eagleford or the geomechanics of the Marcellus, or actual data related things or problems that, say, the industry is trying to solve, and these master's students and PhD students do that. And I think in some ways for the Calgary industry, the North or the Canadian industry, it's important for the University of Calgary and University of Edmonton to also output these sort of projects or thesis that's relevant to the industry. I find that the geophysical industry is a bit, it's not as good as it should be, and it's not recognized as a valuable tool in the unconventional world. And so, training in some ways your students or graduates to provide that sort of valuable technical input into developing these resource plays that we have. I kind of think that universities should have some of that responsibility, especially when the industry needs it. In the heyday, let's say back in 2008, do whatever you want, study, PSDM algorithms that will be implemented when quantum computers come into being.
Yeah.
Which could be sooner than we think, by the way.
Sure.
But I get your point, though.
Right now, the industry needs these sort of relevant topics that provide value that the companies can actually use. And it's good for the student if they want to get employed afterwards, right?
Yeah, no. And I think that's part of how schools deliver value, universities deliver value, is by saying, hey, these students come out of whether it's U of C or U of A or UBC or School of Mines or Houston or wherever they come out of, and they there's a reputation. You guys know your stuff. You can deliver value, and you're connected to the real world.
Yeah, but
real
knowing
world
your
problems.
stuff changes so rapidly,
Yeah.
and some of the stuff is so esoteric / irrelevant that, well, like I said,
Yeah,
I get
but
into a
you
deeper
can also
understanding.
chase trends and then never keep up, right? Because you adjust your program for unconventionals, and then some new discovery gets made, and
Right, true.
pivoted. And so,
Absolutely. And I think, to me, what the biggest difference between my undergrad and my master's was I had to learn how to learn or investigate and, teach myself. There was no, we're going to have a midterm exam. The exam will be on chapters 4, 5, and 6, and the practice questions are on the back of the book. Look at questions 7, 9, and 12. If you know those, you'll be fine. It was more like, here's a problem, go solve it. Well, where do I start? The library.
Yeah.
Not Google at the time, but the library, and figure out a solution. So part of it, the master's part, was learning how to think for myself, learning how to had to learn how to use MATLAB, for example, to solve problems that people had published, and I just sort of piggybacked and then tweaked a little thing to try to make it better. But solving a problem that was relevant to the industry, and at the same time building up a skill set that is portable, I could use throughout my career, learn how to figure things out for myself, sort of thing.
yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense, and that's part of what happens because you go back to do a master's or a PhD. A lot of times you've had that industry experience, and there might be some questions that are bugging you or nagging at you, and you say, well, why can't we solve this particular item, or why isn't this a piece of knowledge in the scientific literature, and I need to fill this gap in some way, and so that you scratch that itch in a way, right? Isn't that kind of what happens?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it should happen, or do something like me and just stay in university your entire life, and then come out and go, whoa, industry's completely different.
Yeah, that's right. It's fascinating. And so, do you find now that so you get your master's, you were talking through this career, and then now you leave U of C and you go back into the working world where you are now.
That's right.
Has it served you well? Like, was it worth it in your mind? Beyond just sort of personal fulfillment and satisfaction, has it helped your career along? Are you better for it in a way?
I think there was sort of a growing experience. Like I said, like learning to figure stuff out for myself. There's a bit of a maturity that comes with it, and sort of, if there's a problem, the solution may not be immediately obvious, and it might look too complicated and very daunting, and I could be intimidated by something like that and just say, forget it. I'm just going to use conventional methods that everyone else has used and just say, these are the limits of geophysics. Whereas in that sort of thesis environment, it was like, well, this is the problem. You have to solve it to the best of your abilities, find new ways and explore different solutions. And so coming out of that and like going through that process, it gave me sort of a confidence to say, that there's problems that may appear very difficult, but I know that if I spend enough time, I will come up with better and better solutions over time. So it's not a question of not even starting. I can start and just be patient with myself to know that as I keep grinding and working towards the better solutions, my understanding of the problem and hopefully my accuracy of solutions or looking at different ways to solve the problem increases. I become better and better over time. I'm building up an expertise over time. So that's something that I've taken from my experience of doing my master's degree to the industry. Keep building up my
working on these wicked problems, solving them.
Yeah,
and do you find, and I'm guessing the answer already, but do you find that you end up working with different disciplines and trying to correlate data? The classic one is engineering data or well completions data with geophysical data, or are you sort of still staying in the pure geophysics domain and solving a geophysics problem?
So, prior to moving to Velvet, I was pretty isolated to just geophysics. And I was naive enough to think, listen, I'll give you my inversions and do my thing, and this is going to be the solution to all the unconventional problems. You guys just need to pay attention to me for once. Right? Whereas moving to Velvet, it's a much smaller company than Apache, and I was able to integrate a whole bunch of different data and see things from different perspectives and realize it's only one piece of the puzzle, an important piece of the puzzle. You can't solve it without it, but it needs to be married to the other data sets that we have. So it's definitely opened up my eyes in that sense, and I've kind of left say what my expertise was more and start broadening my skill set from the engineering sort of side in particular.
Yeah, it's increasingly I hear that same story that those who are still active and working hard and drilling and connected to that world are in fact having to add those different data sets from different disciplines and understand, okay, well, how do I tie this inversion work that I've done to the ultimate well performance, and how much of that is the underlying rocks and my interpretations thereof, and how much of it is the completions and the kind of fracking we did and the kind of proppant we used and the everything else that goes with that, right?
Yeah, and sort of the way I think of it is, you'll have geologists say X, an engineer say Y, and the geophysicists say Z, and we all think we're right, and really we're all seeing different parts of the same problem, and they all have to be true, and finding that one model that helps or that includes everybody's piece of information is the difficulty, I think.
That's the old story of different people touching different parts of the elephant.
That's
one
right.
guy's touching the tusk and the other guy's touching the leg and the other guy's touching the tail. So yeah, it's interesting. Good. And so so you're actively drilling and you're having some success even in this tough market overall. And
yeah, I'd say we're pretty successful. We have a pretty robust drilling program coming up this year. So
and new acquisition projects also acquiring some.
Yeah, one 3D that we're using Vibe on to.
Good.
Not normally a Vibe guy, but
right.
It's good data is good data. So
yeah, we've been passionate, as I'm sure you're aware, passionately pursuing here very high density data sets and kind of challenging a lot of the conventional wisdom on how to do that and how to drive down the cost per source point, whether it's through Viber size or pinpoint or different things that we're trying. And so that's good to hear that that folks are trying different things and stepping out beyond the comfort zone. That's good.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's very cold right now, so things are pretty slow, but
yeah,
I'm amazed about how quickly we can actually shoot these things sometimes, the logistical components to it that I never actually think about.
Yeah, I used to hate Viber. I tell everybody I used to hate Viber size because it was like a slow moving beast and it just took forever. And then when we started going to independent simultaneous shooting with nodes a few years ago, we started hitting, I think our max day was 12,000 VPs in a day, and just astronomical rates of progress. So that was that kind of changed my mind on that. But we're still learning some things. Right?
Yeah.
It's not the Earth is a complicated beast, and so as you know, but we're still learning some things. We have some lessons and some things that we're learning along the way, which is actually what makes it fun. If it was easy and simple and the same every time, it wouldn't carry the same interest.
Yeah.
So I see the Oscar. We're going to make a switch
Oh,
to,
is that,
to
we're
movies.
going to
well, I'm
now-
just looking at 17 minutes. And I want to be respectful of everybody's time here, but is it time to switch gears? Are you ready for that? We
Sure,
usually talk
sure.
movies
Yeah.
and entertainment.
Movie and what is it, Oscars?
They were the
So
nominations.
this is 2 years
were
in a row
just-
that we just start again up on the Oscars.
That's right. Yeah, the nominations were just released today, and my son and I are big movie buffs, and so we've been trying to take all these good movies in. Have you guys seen any good movies? Anything that catches your fancy?
I did see the nominations of the Joker was on there.
Yeah, Joker
Best
got
film,
11
yeah.
nominations, Best Picture included. Yeah.
1917 was that?
Yeah,
was
that was
Parasite. Is that
Parasite was the
Korean
Korean
film,
one.
yeah. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that one or Parasite or 1917, but
The Irishman.
Yeah.
I was telling somebody today so my son and I went to see 1917 on opening night. It's Friday. Fantastic. We had AVX, the big sound
Yeah.
and the big theater and good seats, and very excited about this. We managed to organize ourselves. And it was a phenomenal movie. And without ruining it for anybody, it absolutely immerses you in what's going on in the film. Sam Mendes is the director, and he does a phenomenal job of involving the audience in the movie, which is kind of what he was trying to do exactly. And the cinematography, they will win Best Cinematography hands down, probably win Best Directing. The story's a bit simple, so I don't know if it wins Best Picture or not, but we'll see. I'm sort of partial to The Irishman on that one. But the most annoying thing ever, the people behind us were burping throughout all the I've never experienced this in my life.
Burping.
Like burping loudly. I don't know if it was like a Tourette's thing or what.
On purpose? Or
I don't know how you do that. How you do that not on purpose? It was like what I was like road rage or whatever the theater equivalent of. I was so upset because the guy's dying and it's like in the background right behind yours. And then the one lady snorted. I don't know what was going on back there. Very strange. So my advice
Things
is,
you remember.
Yeah, go to a theater that's not jam-packed on opening night for a better experience. But what have you seen? What is your favorite? What is your personal favorite?
I did like The Joker. I know it's some people
dark
didn't.
movie.
It's a dark movie. Some people don't like it. Or I like that it was different. A different, say, superhero movie or whatever. What do you want to call it? It's kind of funny that. What is it? There's been 4 Jokers. Jack Nicholson,
Heath Ledger.
Ledger, Jared Leto.
Oh, you're going to the movies, huh?
Yeah.
What about the guy from the 60s?
Oh, I was before my time. Jared Leto, and then I guess what's his name?
Joaquin Phoenix.
That's
I always say his name wrong.
Joaquin.
It's Joaquin, I think.
Joaquin.
My son always corrects me.
And then I figure it must be kind of awkward to have Jared Leto sitting there and being like, I'm the only Joker that hasn't been nominated for an Oscar, but with Nicholson and Ledger and now Phoenix.
Yeah, I think Joaquin Phoenix will win that Oscar. I think it's absolutely masterful performance in that movie. For one character to carry that and convince us he was who he was. Like, it's hard to see anybody else.
Even just the physical transformation that he looks so skinny and
slouchy.
Yeah,
I
mean,
that is not an easy thing to do. Have you seen it?
I have not seen the movie.
Yeah, you can't go with your kids.
I'm not.
Kids
No,
are too
no,
young.
no,
See,
no.
my kids are older, so I can go with my kids, but they're not kids anymore, basically. But yeah. You got to find that's a good. It might be on. Is it on whatever streaming service now?
Probably.
Is.
Yeah, it's definitely released.
But it's a dark movie.
Well, I got to watch the Mandalorian series.
Oh yeah, my kids like that. I haven't really watched. I watched part of the first one, but
it was good. I mean, it's a bunch of archetypes. Stuff happens, things blow up, the good guys win. I mean, you can't go wrong. There were some people complaining about some of the humor in it. They're space wizards. Well, sorry, a baby space wizard.
Baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda.
Yeah. Baby Yoda comes from the Mandalorian, right?
Yeah, the baby space wizard. So if there's a problem, have the space wizard take care of it.
Yeah.
That's the.
That's good. Yeah. Yeah, I saw the new Star Wars. Did you guys see that one?
Yeah.
More space wizards.
Yeah. I like Star Wars, but I shouldn't like that movie. Like it wasn't the strongest.
It's like the junk food.
It's a bit like junk food. It's like going to McDonald's.
It's going to McDonald's. You know what good food should taste like, but you still enjoy McDonald's.
You still like those fries.
Yeah, it's like, this is great. This is not fulfilling. It did not.
I'm unhealthier than I was before
right.
I came in here.
That's right. There's some brain damage happening.
Something happened. I'm not right.
Yeah.
That's exactly it.
And space wizards.
Yeah, that's right. And what about, have you guys seen The Irishman?
I haven't seen The Irishman.
I was surprised that's on Netflix. I was like, oh, it's...
So the big controversy, this I think really starts to blur the lines because, they didn't show it in the theater. They showed it in the theaters for about 5 minutes. And because they were having a fight with all the major theater chains over it, there's a minimum period that you're supposed to show the movie before you release it so the theaters can make their money. And then it streams. But because it was a Netflix produced thing, they didn't do that. And so then Cineplex and all these major chains all over the world refused to show the movie. So it showed up on independent theaters for just so it could qualify for an Oscar, I think. Okay. So then you could watch it on Netflix like
I saw that.
a couple weeks later.
Very strange.
Very weird.
Different, I should say.
So, but it works pretty well on a reasonable TV, and it's a fantastic film. Very long, 3.5 hours. And then I liked it so much, it caused me to read the book. And the book is even better. So if you're a book reader.
Isn't that often the case? People like the books better than the movies?
Yeah, and I'm not a voracious reader of books. I read magazines and news and stuff more than that. But this particular book really got my interest. And so if you get a chance, in the cold weather that we've got, curl up with I Heard You Paint Houses by Charles Brandt. It's a great book. Really good.
Okay.
So good.
What about was it Martin Scorsese saying that the Marvel Universe films aren't real cinema or theater? It's just,
it's just McDonald's for the
It's
eyes.
McDonald's.
McDonald's for the eyes.
But I don't know why people get angry about that. It's just like,
Yeah, it's a different entertainment
yeah,
segment. It's sort of like what's real music and what isn't. Let's talk about that, right?
Yeah.
And they have different tastes and different markets, and I think it's all good. It's all good. And every once in a while, you have a crossover, like the Joker comes out of the cartoon world, and it's different.
yeah.
Like without Batman in the beginning, which is a cartoon, is Batman DC, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
So without Batman in the beginning, you would never have the Joker, which is a critically acclaimed film.
Yeah.
From that. So maybe something like that comes out of the Marvel universe. Is that possible?
Sure.
I'm not a Marvel guy. I've never really seen any of those movies.
I haven't either, though my kids are demanding we watch them. I said we'll watch them in order of operations, eventually. Because my 6-year-old wants to watch them, and they're PG-13. I'm like, no, dude. I know your friends have probably watched them. We're gonna wait.
Yeah.
A few more years.
By the time your third kid gets through, you'll be like, whatever, it's rated R, you're 12. We're good.
Well, back in the day, I think that's just what happened. It's like, here's a tape. Oh my God.
Yeah, exactly.
Or whatever they're watching on YouTube.
Oh,
Makes
well,
sense.
no, we don't have. They do not have unfettered access to YouTube. So
Okay.
Oh, you've got caps and limits.
Lock them down, man.
There's like child version of YouTube, whatever. I don't even know.
Yeah,
what
there
it's
was a
called.
big,
Is there?
yeah, but it's a big problem now, or because people used to make money hand over fist on it, but because of YouTube actually following American law now, there's a whole bunch of restrictions so that they can't make money like crazy.
Yeah, I think my son was watching somebody's toy review thing.
Yeah.
And the little kid was like, made millions of dollars.
Yeah,
So
Evan
now he has his
probably.
own-
Yeah,
and made his own. He has his own TV show or something like that.
Yeah.
Like Ryan's Toy Review or something.
yeah.
like that.
There's a whole bunch of them, but recently because of some an American law that came out like at the turn of the century. Well, it sounds weird. Yeah, like 1999. You can't you can't show like children on TV or in video format. It's like a whole bunch of restrictions that if your content is if kid can like your content, you can get slapped with like a $10,000 fine. So
Interesting.
YouTube was ignoring the rules. It wasn't the content creators. It was the YouTubes, and so
Well, YouTube is Google, right? So
yeah,
they have to follow the rules, I'm sure.
and they haven't been because they were making money,
Right.
and so now they're cracking down. So if you had so kid YouTube is no longer as
Lucrative.
lucrative as it used to.
Yeah, because the budgets that the kids have to spend don't attract the same advertising dollars.
No advertising. They're not allowed to advertise.
Oh, really?
Yep.
At all?
At all.
Huh. Because, when you used to watch Saturday morning cartoons back in the day,
Yep.
you'd get hit with all the cool toys, like G.I. Joe and
there was
whatever else
Transformers.
was. Transformers was
Oh
on.
yeah, there's like a whole bunch of restrictions. There's no commenting on the videos. There's no, you can't put them into playlists.
How have I missed it? I guess my kids are too old.
Yeah, it only came up to me peripherally because if some people were like, "This is going to affect you because if kids like your content, you're going to get $10,000 fine." It was like, What?
But your content's okay for kids, isn't it?
I've never put it okay for kids.
Oh, you okay?
I mean,
you have-
there was an option.
But it is okay.
I don't swear in it, but it's
It's edgy or something.
The lightning bolts. The lightning bolts are scary.
Lightning bolts, guitars,
anything.
science.
I just don't say it's for kids now.
Yeah.
Period. Just it's not. It's not. I mean, that's. I didn't go. Oh, I wonder if like my children are gonna watch this. It was like, I hope my kids don't watch this, because they bleep out swears. Like, oh my, holy.
It's so fascinating how much is changing in the world and how quickly. Like, you know, I'm still pinching myself that it's 2020. You know, and like here we are. This is the year. It's a big year. Like, I don't know. It's turn of a decade, and 2020 seemed like a long ways away when I was a kid. It just did. It seemed like a future date. Like, my son pointed out, we're beyond the date of the first Blade Runner movie.
Yeah.
Like, if that movie was
1919,
made today, it would be a
2019.
movie set in our past. Okay, think about that. Right?
Well, that's a lot of science fiction-y stuff like
Yeah.
that. It's like, oh, World War III will happen in
2001.
1997.
Yeah.
Well, where's the hoverboard from Back to the Future?
Yeah. Are we past the Back to the
Yeah.
Future
Yeah.
time?
Yeah.
Are we?
Yeah,
Okay.
we're past.
Yeah.
I think USA Today had like a headline where they showed Marty McFly as if they on the same day that it happened in the
Oh,
movie. It was
cool,
pretty
yeah.
cool.
No
That's funny.
hoverboards, no shoes that tie themselves.
We might get flying cars. So 2020, does anybody see any major changes in either in geophysics, in our industry, in the world at large? What do you think is going to hit us this year that's big? Have you guys thought about
Machine learning.
The
that?
learned
that's
machine.
happened. We use machine learning a lot, right? We already do.
It's been
That's the
used
truth.
for a long time.
It's not a new thing.
I
It's
think
about scale. I think.
It's a difficult question to answer because even like if you think about what is it, Back to the Future 2, when people I guess in the 80s or whatever it was were thinking about what the future would look like in 2019, it'd be hoverboards and self-tying shoes and people wearing their clothes inside out, when really the thing that came out was the iPhone or something like that.
That's right. When
How
we're
can you-
connected in a way we could never have imagined.
Exactly. It's like stuff that we won't be able to think of in some ways.
Think about this. No science fiction writer thought of the internet.
Is that true?
Yeah. Isaac Asimov. There was no internet in any. I shouldn't say any. In most like science fiction for a very long time, it wasn't even like, all right, let's envision. There's like this thing where everybody connects to and everything's available.
Yeah, but there was kind of like, if you think about war games, that was really internet gone wrong.
Well, that was
Military
dial-up, yeah, but it wasn't like, oh, let's talk to people. Oh, let's get our favorite prawn.
Wasn't Carl Sagan talking about at some point how connected the world would be and how people would lose culture or
Yeah, that trend
the
is happening. We're
dissemination
all
of,
kind of
yeah.
converging on something, right? Like,
the
I'm
dissemination
struck.
of personal opinions as fact as opposed to just opinion?
Yeah, that's happening.
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's because people don't know how to handle social media and the weirdness that occurs because of it.
Well, you've got a marketplace for information and content, and the marketplace rewards controversy. It's kind of how it works, right? It doesn't reward truth and boring stuff.
Well, it does if you're an outlier, but it also rewards the weirdos.
It super rewards.
So the weirdos, it's like this constant battle between what I call the weirdos and the outliers.
right.
And the outliers are usually talking sane, but the weirdos are the ones that, you know,
But
if
it's
they get
sort
too
of,
political.
It's
so I
funny,
won't.
but the yeah, it's just the whole thing's challenging. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how that resolves. I'm struck by the fact that I've got a supercomputer in my pocket. I can answer just about any question that I want to answer in a matter of seconds.
Mm-hmm.
I'm testing in my office. I have Alexa set up.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm kind of an Amazon guy, right? So
Yeah, we've got one
set
of
up
those at
Alexa,
home.
and my son said to me, he goes, "You got an Alexa in you bugged your own office?" That's what he said to me. I said, "Well, I guess I kind of did."
Does he have a phone?
Yeah, but I mean, the theory is that they listen to you all the time, and then they sell you stuff you're talking about. Right?
Yeah.
So, but I like it. I just ask Alexa to do something, and she does it. It's kind of cool. Like,
He called it a she.
yeah. Did I call it a she?
Yeah.
Yeah. She is a she. I think.
I
Certainly
find myself
sounds like a
thanking
female.
Alexa.
Yeah.
Alexa, play some Miles Davis, please.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I use
Thank
Manners.
you.
Do you guys do? Do you have Alexa or Google or Siri?
Actually, we do have Alexa, like the Fire Stick or whatever.
Do you?
Yeah.
Do you say please and thank you with?
Sometimes I say thank you.
Yeah.
Tell me a joke.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're funny. My kids like it.
This is actually what I say. She'll probably, if I say it loud enough, she might turn on. Alexa, please set an alarm for 15 minutes from now. Right? And I say that, and it's like, alarm
There
set.
you go.
Did she do it?
Yeah, starting now. Yeah. Alexa hears all.
She heard me.
Yeah.
And I'm in another room. I'm a long ways away from Alexa.
And you can try to fool it and you say, Alexis, set alarm for 1 minute.
Didn't do it.
Didn't
She's
do
not
it.
Alexa. She's Alexa.
Alexia, set alarm for 1 minute.
No.
But the worst part about that is, Alexa, set an alarm for 1 minute because it recognizes me. There you go.
Yeah.
Try that with kids in the house.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
We need voice recognition software for because you could buy now. What you've just shown me is you could go in and buy something.
Oh, you set a lock on buy. You can add it to your cart.
But I don't have a lock on buy. Like you could buy something.
He says this out loud.
Yeah. Not well. You got to come in here and talk to my computer, I guess. But I don't. There's all these
Or
things that
walk
we're not
by.
thinking of. Yeah, exactly.
Well, that reminds me. I think Joaquin Phoenix was in another movie where he had that sort of computer Alexa type personal assistant in his ear,
and he was nominated for that too.
Yeah,
wasn't he?
yeah.
Her.
Her.
Was it-
Yeah, I think it's called Her. Yeah.
Did you guys see it?
I did. It was.
It was good.
Yeah, it was good.
Oh,
It
neat.
was very good.
Yeah. No, it's going to be interesting. Seismically, I think this is going to be, from a geophysical perspective, 2020 is going to be fascinating because we've got a number of new things hitting the marketplace, at least in the acquisition world. Right.
Mhm.
So one of the biggest things we're watching is
Alarm's going off.
well, because you said it in 1 minute.
Alexa, alarm off.
That's crazy.
You were talking about seismic.
Seismic sensors, but there's a few new receiver nodes hitting the market this year, and that one of the constraints we've had on high density and driving to high density, very high, ultra high densities, has been the inefficiency of the seismic receiver nodes. I think that's going to be exciting in 2020. We'll see some new, BP's got their Nimble node. I think that's going to hit the market later this year. Sercel's got a new node that's hitting the market. There's a new geospace node, and all of them are smaller, lighter, faster, more efficient, better. GTI is another one out of Houston that's building. So we're watching that space. There's also a number of new sources being tested, ours among them. And so to see where that'll land this year will be interesting. And then, like Chris said, ML, AI, the migration to the cloud, all these big disruptions that are really going to radically change our industry, I think. So it'll be interesting to see where we sit this time next year.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you get operational efficiencies. Do you think you get better interpretable data? Like, do you think the processing side is caught up, or we'll be able to keep up with the acquisition advances?
So I think that because the data densities are going to be so high, the size of the data volumes we've seen in our high density stuff are several orders of magnitude greater. So we deal routinely now in hundreds of terabytes for a single data set, single 3D, which is more than many large company their entire seismic data library. And that's part of why we think the cloud is a natural fit alongside that. And then cloud computing. The thing is, today, processing on the cloud is still a discussion point, by and large. Something people think we'll be able to do, but nobody's really said, okay, look at this, I've done it at scale, repeatedly and commercially. But I believe that'll change very, very quickly. And so I think the reason that I'm excited by it isn't necessarily that the sensors themselves will record a broader bandwidth, because that's kind of been solved already, at least for what we can use today. But it's around the commerciality of ultra high density data sets. Because if the data sets we were acquiring that are sort of 10 to 50 or 100 million traces per square were the same price as the sparse data sets, well, nobody would shoot sparse data sets anymore. And the reason people still shoot sparse data sets is because If there's an incremental gain in data quality, maybe they don't need it, and they can kind of save the money. It's kind of how it works. But when you have an unambiguously better product that is in that price range of sort of an acceptable margin higher, then I think people go that way. And we sort of see analogies to that in televisions, right? Mm-hmm. You see the television at the tech show that's like, wow, and it's $20,000 when it first comes out. Nobody's going to buy it. Today, they're in Best Buy for, well, that's all you can buy. Mm-hmm. And so that change is, I think, going to be driven in part by receiver efficiency. So that's a big disruption I see coming.
Yeah.
Anything in your world? What do you see coming, 2020, 2021?
Well, no, I think a lot of it is with the learned machine, the artificial intelligence sort of things. And for a company Velvet size, it's more what can we do with the data we have, managing the data, where is it going to live, who's going to sort through the data, get into a place where we can actually do something with it. I mean, sometimes I find like 80% of the work is just data preparation as opposed to data analysis. So that's probably our biggest struggle. And my fear is that once this sort of technology does take off, maybe it already has at larger companies like Exxon and Shell, and they're actually leveraging off all this stuff. So similar to what Google is doing, let's say, that the smaller companies just won't be able to compete, and we won't be able to crack the code on how to really optimize, subsurface development of our assets. Yeah. I don't feel like we're there yet, but it could be just it doesn't have to be a linear increase in sort of knowledge. It could step function, and suddenly you're way behind and never going to catch up, sort of thing.
Yeah, it's the real challenge with seismic data, the legacy data sets, is that they don't self-describe. You've got to have all the components to make sense out of it. The raw data, the basic data, and all these pieces, and the way they interrelate is very important in terms of understanding and interpreting and processing that data. And reprocessing that data. That's one of the key challenges. So you talk about conditioning, getting it in the right place and in the right formats and properly conditioned and prepared so that the machines can take advantage of it and make use of it. And I found that when we were running a small test processing on the cloud ourselves, and our hang up in the first instance was actually just transposing observers logs that were handwritten logs from the 90s in this particular test that we ran. And so I put out a challenge on the internet on LinkedIn that said, hey, $5,000 if you can do this.
Yeah.
And the reason that I set it so low in the beginning was because I thought, well, maybe I've just missed it and it's actually obvious. So if I make a $5,000 mistake, maybe I'm okay with that, right? Somebody wins and I lose.
Yeah.
But nobody came up with anything. So then I thought, okay, well, it hasn't been solved. So I increased the price to $20,000. And I've actually got a couple people that have hit me up and said, hey, what do you think of this? And they can kind of get the characters recognized and kind of get it tabular. But that's machine learning. And it's like a grind to get even a basic transposition.
That's the beginning. And then all of a sudden
somebody does it, right?
Yeah, and they're reading everything.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So that's all, and that's just one of many challenges down the road that I see. Once you have it in SegWi format and you've got properly populated headers and you've got geometry in the headers, you can start to do some things and scale. But it's the old stuff.
I guess the other thing I see with that machine learning is there's a component that will do, let's say, like automate things that humans can do themselves, just take much longer, sort of like automatic fault picking or automatic horizon picking, and versus solving things that are sort of intractable to the human mind, as to like, if I have this seismic trace, this log, this completions, what's my production going to be? There's no analytical formula to
not yet.
That's right. There's no physics yet discovered to do that.
Correlate those things.
Just throw it into this machine and it'll tell you what it thinks, right? So
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. It'll be really interesting. Good. 42 minutes, 43.
Yeah, we're running.
Are we over time?
We're
going
running out. Well, it's I've set it for a maximum of like 48 minutes, so it's every little chunk gets closer and closer where it just goes,
And then it stops.
and then it stops.
Yeah. Good. Any parting thoughts? Anything else, Marco? It's been great. I've really enjoyed the conversation.
well,
So
thanks for
thank you
having me.
making time.
You know, I hope you guys keep doing this.
We try.
We try.
At least
you
once
need-
or twice a year.
Yeah.
You can kind of tell how busy we are because we sort of, oh my goodness, and then a year goes by and here we are. But we will keep doing them. And,
Okay,
and, it's,
good.
and having guests like yourselves here really energizes us. And so we really appreciate you making time and popping over in the cold.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Fantastic.
Well, thank you.
Okay, that's great. I'm going to see if I can start this up again then.
Yeah,
first. Is that what I'm doing?
Outro music.
I have to. I always screw up the. There it is.
Was this the outro was same as intro?
Well, no.
It must have been.
Here.
I think it was.
There.
Yeah, there we go. That sounds more
Is
like
that the
Audi.
outro?
Yeah, that sounds.
This is. By the way, if you want to license this song, it's available on iTunes. It's my only
What's it
published
called?
song. We just look up Allan Chatenay, and it's got a goofy name called NYC 9/11 Decay, with a picture of my son when he was 2 years old because I stayed up till 2 in the morning doing this thing. So,
Available now.
available now, 99 cents.
All right.
Yeah. Thanks.
I think that was it.
Until next time.
Until next time, I'm Dr. Chris.
And I'm Allan Chatenay, and this is Source Points.